bienvenidos, bonjour, and what's up? This is another episode of Utter Chaos. My name is Nia.
And I'm Selena. What's up?
And I'm Dwight. Hi there.
That sounded creepy. Okay. Well, today's topic is marriage, the pros and cons. Marriage. Well, I think you guys should start off since you've been happily married for 20 years. Tell us, what's your secret?
That's a very, very good question. And the only secret that I can think of is one day at a time.
That seems to be the golden secret for life.
It does.
I think for me, I don't really focus on marriage because that's just a word, and it's a word that I can replace with friend, partner, soulmate. So it's just a word, and it's a word that a lot of people relate to due to the general structure of marriage within the United States. For me, I try to focus more so on being the best version of me than I can be, and then hopefully that will radiate and my marriage will benefit from it. Being with my partner, being with my friend, being with my female friends, being with anyone in the world will benefit from me just focusing on being the best version of me that I can be. Now keep in mind I am a work in progress, but I don't really focus on the marriage per se because it's like, am I really trying to be a good person for marriage, or am I trying to be a good person because I just want to be a good person? So the marriage part to me, to be honest, isn't as important as me getting my stuff together and making sure that I'm leading with love and light and being the best version of me that I can be.
As we're going through this conversation about marriage, I don't want to focus as much on ours, although we are going to hold it up in juxtaposition to the different things that we want to talk about. But just in general, the idea of marriage, the idea of the institution of marriage, the pomp and circumstance behind marriage, the rights, responsibilities, and expectations of marriage. I think the conversation about marriage has to kind of start with really looking at what it is, where it came from, and for each individual kind of trying to figure out what it is your expectations were out of it, why you have those expectations, and are those expectations realistic considering who you are, who the other person is, and the realities of the time we live in now. Because our institution of marriage is not that old. It's not, we've only been doing it this way as a human species for a few hundred years. And in our culture, we do it this way. In other cultures, it's done in entirely different ways.
I agree. That's why I say it in America, because I don't think a lot of people realize that it means something to people in different cultures. It means something different. So I definitely agree with the point you're making.
I think for people, especially young people coming up, this is one of those things where I always say question everything. This is one of those things where you really have to start asking questions about who you are, what your expectations are, what you want, why you want it, why you think that's what you should be doing. Because it's interesting that back when people started getting married, the average life expectancy was probably 40. So people, when you start talking about till death do you part, you really want to talk about 20 years, 20, 25 years, maybe. It was not a long time. You could expect your partner maybe to be dead in the next 2 or 3 years, so you didn't really have to contemplate
Forever,
50,
ever?
forever. But here we are in a world where we may. I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson say not too long ago that the first person to live forever may already be alive.
Yeah, that was
So
very interesting.
That just knocked me on my butt because I'm like, okay, so basically what we're saying is that till death do us part is a whole nother kind of concept than it was for the people who created this institution of the marriage.
In the beginning, it's like with a lot of other things, though. I don't think they really update the rules a lot. I
Yeah.
don't think they update the rules, the laws, the way they think. It's like, I know in my life, I try to reevaluate my life at a minimum every 6 months to make sure that I'm still living and doing the things that I truly want to be doing. And that things still exist in the realm that I think that they still exist, because sometimes we kind of get left behind in our antiquated thought processes.
What kind of questions would you, as a young person who is contemplating getting into relationships and living in a world where, I don't know, maybe marriage is an expectation, or I'm sure people talk about it?
Is it an expectation?
Me
for your
personally, I
generation?
ain't contemplating nothing. But yes, it is. A lot of people my age are really wrapped up in relationships and marriage, and they don't want to date just to date. They want to date for a serious reason. They're like, why am I just going to waste my time with you if it's not going to be a future? And I'm like, first of all, why can't you just live in the moment? Why can't you just be happy with this person and what they're giving you right now? Because everybody ain't here for the long run. Like, you missing out on some blessings and some lessons.
Well, you might want to preach, little 22-year-old. I want to say happy birthday to Nia today as well. Today is her birthday. But you have so much insight to be so young that you're able to not bow down to the peer pressure of the things that's happening around you. I think it's important that when people, why is it that you want to do? Because I'm 22 years old. That's why
Right.
I mean,
Like, do I need?
that's too young to even be thinking about that. Especially considering, as Dwight said, you planning on living into at least 100 or so.
Ish. And then that's another problem, because a lot of us don't even feel like we gonna live long right now. In the state of the world, they like, apocalypse is coming and this, that, and the third. So I'm just like, but even if I'm not about to rush to get into something that, isn't right for me, like so many people my age are focused on getting into these serious relationships, and y'all don't even know who you are, and you trying to have this other person help you figure it out. And it's like, bro, y'all are gonna become different people in 20 years. Like, you can't just expect this to be the same thing that it was. Like, you have to learn to get to know each other and love each other every single day. It's making a choice.
That's right. I definitely agree with you, and I don't think a lot of people contemplate on what they're bringing to the table and what the table is going to end up looking like in 20 or 40 years
Right.
of being with that person.
Like, y'all
Or
motherfuckers
even
don't
being
even
with
love
yourself.
yourself. Like,
Being with yourself, because it starts with you. That's why I just really try to focus on myself versus my relationships, because I feel like everything starts with me. The book kind of stops here. And then it makes me wonder, when people are talking about marriage, I kind of wonder why people are truly getting married.
hey, Tyler Perry made a movie about it.
Why are people truly getting married? Because I know for me, it was to build. But I hear so many people talking about, I got married for love, or I got married for my babies, or I got married for whatever reason they may get married, whatever works for you. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. I'm just saying the reason I got married is to build. Just so happened I did love him. But if the building, because if the building part wasn't there, the marriage wouldn't have happened.
It's
It
funny
wouldn't
that
have
you laugh
happened.
about that because you know
Yes.
in a lot of cultures, arranged marriages are still the norm. And so
Yeah.
the idea is we're putting you together to do something particular. We're not putting you
Yeah.
together just so you can be happy. That's not the only goal with a lot of people when they start talking about putting, arranging the next generation of a lot of people do it for genetic reasons. For a lot of people do it because they want to make sure that the people that their kids get involved with are able to be compatible at the level that they want their kids to be compatible. So there's a lot to be said for arranged marriages if you want to look at it from the standpoint of making the best decision that is devoid of the kinds of how should we say it, impurities that sometimes emotions bring to it. You know what I'm saying?
He
So-
cheated on me. He
Yeah.
did this. She did that.
And the
I
other thing is,
mean-
it doesn't saddle you with the expectation that this person is going to be your be all and end all, because that's never the way you started. When you go into a situation thinking, okay, this person
They
completes
complete
me,
me. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Like, why
And
weren't
then
you
all of a
completed
sudden,
to begin with?
they stop completing you. You know, it's hard. It's real easy to fall off of that standard. You already started at 100. It's so easy to get to 99 here, 89, 79. B work is usually good, but not when I expect you to complete me. I'm 20% short at that rate. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be a problem. So
That mind boggles me because people be out here getting married to people y'all don't even like. So they not even starting off at 100%. You starting off at 80, 70 or whatever. But you're just like, oh, but I love him and he gonna be a good father to my kids. 10 years later, I can't stand his ass. He would, like, you didn't think about this beforehand? None of this crossed your mind at all?
I know from personal experience that unfortunately a lot of people get married for the wrong reasons, and sometimes it's to get out of bad situations,
I mean,
or because you have a child or whatever it may be. So I do get what you're saying, but that rabbit hole goes so deep when it comes down to people and their personal choices as far as why they're getting married.
okay, I'm gonna be the bad guy. I say if you getting married because you got a kid with somebody, you're a dumbass. Okay.
I second that.
So let's just put it out. I'm gonna be the one to say it because here's the thing.
Not saying
What
it
you-
don't happen, but I second
You are committing your kids to a lifetime of watching two people who don't give a shit about each other interact with each other. And what you're doing is that's what you're teaching them, how to interact with people that you don't give a shit about. And so that is not a lesson that you really want to be imparting into a child, but that's what you're basically consigning your child to when you say, well, I'm just gonna marry this person because we got a child together. That is the worst thing you can do for yourself and the worst thing you can do for the child. And anybody who stops to think about it for a hot second would realize it. And I understand that there are always these economic considerations. And that's a whole nother conversation. We live in a world where that shouldn't be the case. Nobody should be forced into a relationship just for economic stability. Because if you really want to know about it, that's where marriage came from to begin with. Women were forced into relationships because they had to find economic stability.
based
and
on
because
status and stuff.
and because fathers needed to sell daughters to increase the economic stability of the family. That's how it worked. That's where it came from.
I
Y'all gotta
agree
We
be
aren't
with
too
Pride
far
and
away from that
Prejudice.
now.
I definitely agree with it's not the best decision. I'm not gonna necessarily say you're a dumbass, to be honest, because I don't like really putting that energy out. I try my best. Like I said, I'm a work in progress. Work with me. Pray for me out there, saints. But I think that due to our baggage, it's like peeling the layers of an onion. We have so much baggage that sometimes we find ourselves not in the best situations. And then due to self-survival, we have to do what we have to do to get out of them. I mean, I know for me, I found myself in a situation and it had nothing to do with me. I was a minor. So when it comes to getting out of situations, I understand what that feels like because I've been there. So I can't necessarily say that I was a dumb ass, but I can say that I didn't make the best decisions. But I was dealing with the deck that I had. And that's where I would love for my co-host to have a little bit more empathy for people like me and for other people out there who, when it comes down to self-survival, sometimes you'll find yourself doing things that's not actually in your best interest, but at the moment it made sense.
And I 100% understand that there are people out there who end up in those situations and there doesn't seem like much that they can do because there isn't. But at the moment, I witness too many people who have choices and just choose not to make them. And that's what I'm speaking of when I, call them a dumbass. It's like, not the people like you, it's the people that, are literally putting themselves in these situations as if they don't have another choice when they do.
I definitely agree that there's people out here who's just definitely out here living their lives recklessly, and they're making bad decisions,
Just
and they're
messy.
and doing it for a whole lot of crazy reasons. So there's a lot of people that go across the gamut when it comes to different scenarios.
See, when you put it in terms of it being personal to your situation, I wouldn't begin to call anybody to their face a dumbass. But I do have to say that you have to understand that there is a series of bad decisions that leads up to that final bad decision. This is not one bad decision. This is bad decision after bad decision after bad decision for many of these people. Now, everybody is not the same situation. So if that's not your only reason for getting married, maybe you got some other things going on. Maybe there's some other things that come into there, some other factors in there that we hadn't considered. But I'm saying, if your only thing that you can say, well, I married him because we had a child together, I'm sorry. You should have thought that through just a little bit more. To me, the definition of dumb is an absolute refusal to think it through.
I definitely agree with you should have thought that through, but I think that we all can identify roads that we've decided to take in our life where we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I should have thought that through a little bit more.
Dumbass shit. And when you get to that point, you can say that to yourself.
I could willingly call myself a dumbass because of the things
we all can look at ourselves and make those claims. So with that being said, I definitely agree that, it wasn't the best decision. But I still go short of, just saying people are dumbasses, because first of all, I'm a self-proclaimed empath, and I've been through so much stuff myself in my own life that I can relate to people on so many levels because I've been there. And when you've been there, when you've had to be in the trenches and walk those streets, it's like you can really authentically come from a place of, okay, I know I've been there, so I can see a different perspective on why people may have made this decision. And then, as they say, if we knew better, we would do better. So it's like pushing down the handicap in a sense. Are you truly trying to push down the handicap, or are you trying to empower us to make sure that we don't make those type of decisions again?
Well, Humanity First does say that I have to take each individual on an individual basis. So perhaps on an individual basis, these people can convince me they're not dumbasses.
I don't know. I feel like if more people were willing to, look themselves in the mirror and call themselves a dumbass, we might be in an easier state of the world right now. Like, instead, everybody's sitting here making excuses for themselves. And it's like, no, you did what you did. I'm sure you had your reasons, but you did what you did. Just admit it and move on.
Well, you definitely have to own your shit. I definitely believe that everyone should own their shit. If they did something, or if we believe in something, we have to stand by it. We have to commit to it. We have to own it. We have to say, okay, yeah, we made these choices. But just as far as how we categorize those choices is, I think, where we're on different pages here.
I certainly agree with you that, again, we should strive to exhibit as much compassion as we can. And on an individual basis, I certainly hope to do that. Collectively, sometimes I just want people to think. And I think sometimes we got to shake ourselves up a little bit to think. But when we're talking about marriage, that's one of the bad reasons for doing it. Another bad reason for doing it, to me, is getting married simply because of what you think somebody can do for you.
Right, though.
And, there's a lot of people engaged in situations like that. And, I think that the idea that we're still pushing in this society, that there's something wrong with people who aren't married. There's something wrong with families that don't have fathers and mothers in the household. There's something wrong with this, that, or the other, something that's not a traditional setup for what you think or what society, or let's say it, what Judeo-Christian society for the most part, but also, and Judeo-Christian society, just for those of you who don't know, also includes the Islamic religion, because that's all, from the Abrahamic. So I'm talking about all of them, and that is a level of conditioning that is kind of predicated on thinking that things don't change. But things have changed dramatically and remarkably. We are now to the point where it may be safer and wiser to have children created in test tubes than it is to have children created by natural procreation.
Aw.
And the thing
I
is,
was excited.
but that's not to say that we get to stop having sex. That's to say that we get to be more conscientious and aware of how we're bringing new life into the world. There was a point in the human condition where, there might have been fewer than 1 million of us, and the survival of the species itself was, still very much up in the air till, less than a few thousand years ago. So the ideas, the habits, the mores of reckless abandon and procreation, be fruitful and multiply. This is something that is actually a tenet.
We're indoctrinated on a lot of
an
ways.
Indoctrination.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That made a whole lot of sense when there was less than 1 million of us, and the possibility for our extinction was a very real thing. Any kind of pandemic could have wiped us out because it literally wasn't enough of us to carry on from certain things.
Now we have certain populations putting limits on the amount of children that you can have.
There's
So
like a
obviously
virus.
there's
Billion
right,
people of us.
7.5 billion. So there's obviously enough of us here.
And the crazy thing about it is, the earth can sustain twice that much easily forever. So the idea that we need to either curtail how many people are being born, or that we need to be fruitful and multiply, all of these are ideas that are based in what, if you really look deep enough at it, come into being fallacies. And all these ideas play into how society looks at how you should be in relationships, how you should conduct yourself in relationships, what those relationships.
It brings about all the prejudices due to the way they think. It brings about a lot of prejudices, even when it comes to our LGBTQ community and all the rest of us. I mean, we should all have the same rights. Which comedian was that said they should be as miserable as I am?
I gotta get married. You gotta get married. You should be able to get the benefits without getting all the hassle. But at the same time, if you think about it, and I have to admit to having been very guilty of this. At one point early in my life, I was indoctrinated to think that the idea that a man would want to be with a man or a woman would want to be with a woman was indicative of somebody who had some sort of mental illness or mental problem with the idea of procreating themselves. Those kind of people got together because they didn't want to procreate. That was
breaking news.
That was a
We
thing.
just learned this about him. He's
that
not
was
one
a
of
thing.
us.
Okay. Listen,
That was a
Anybody,
whole theory.
Anybody,
I know, right?
anybody that was raised in, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, these were the ideas. We're just now getting to the point where we're even beginning to have the conversations that allow us to have a better understanding.
I agree with that.
So the conversations that were had, it made sense in a sense. If you're talking about somebody, the basic reason for getting, at a basic biological level, the basic reason for getting into a relationship with someone is procreation. So if you're not going to procreate, and again, it doesn't make sense upon further review. So let's start there. It makes no sense upon further review. But the idea came from an old-fashioned thought process that's what it's for. All right? That's what a relationship's for. So if that's not what a relationship's for, what is a relationship for? Does anybody know? Are we all just jumping into relationships because we were indoctrinated to be in relationships?
I think it's for the people that's in the relationship to define what their relationship means to them. I don't care if it's to men, to women, to friends. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to allow the state, the government, anyone to determine and dictate what my relationship with my partner means. I don't care what the laws are. This is my household, and I'm going to run it the way I want to. I'm going to live my life the way that I want to. As long as I'm not hurting anyone, then why should anyone care on how I'm living my life? So I think it's up to the people who's in a relationship to determine what it means to them, because one size don't fit all.
True. I think at the basis of it all, of people wanting to be in relationships, is just that natural want for human connection that we all have. But I think monogamy and all these other old ideas kind of tainted all of that. And now it's we're in this mess of, oh, you need to be married to have kids and do it this way and that way. And I'm like, with the people who tell me that, because I'm the type of person that's I don't need to be married to have kids. Of course, I'd want to be with my partner so we can have a stable household for our kid, because that's the way I was raised and that's the way I would want to raise my children. But do I need to be married to him? No.
I mean, you got to ask yourself. I've long told men who were in situations where they were not physically living with their children that your relationship with your child should not have anything to do with your physical proximity to your child. And so if you're going to be a good parent, a good father, then you're going to be a good father. I don't care whether or not you're on the moon and the child's on Mars.
I know that's right.
And if you're not gonna
you better say it.
You could be in the next room every day, and you still gonna be a shitty father. So I mean, the idea that it requires you to be there and be in place every day is a myth. I mean, what our children need is unconditional love, support, and zero stress in their lives about whether or not they're going to eat, whether or not the people around them are going to be safe to be around. All these kinds of things are what's destroying our kids. It's not whether or not there's a father in the house. But we have been conditioned to thinking this to the point where,
And then what determines a father?
Okay, a man. Okay, let's just
Sperm donor.
Let's just say 2 adults in the building. Let's just say that.
Though I prefer, I would say this. I think I'm not team husband and wife, but I do believe that a child will benefit more if they had a male and a female presence in their life. Mm-hmm. That don't mean your relationship. It has absolutely nothing to do with your romantic relationship with whoever you want to partner with. It just means that there are male and females in this world, and to give a balanced perspective to a human being, they need to get a perspective from both.
I 1000% agree, and take that further and say it needs to be more than just one male and one female.
I agree.
In
Yeah.
point
A
of fact,
village. Yes.
Like Adam and Steve can have a daughter, and Steve could have a sister who's a
That's
maternal
right.
figure for the daughter.
That's
like,
right.
should have a sister, a mother, cousins, friends.
yeah.
If you're the right kind of parent, you're constantly looking for the right kinds of role models to expose your children to, male, female, otherwise, well, it doesn't matter.
You should
You
be
gon-
happy that
Exactly.
people want to pour love and light into your children. That's one thing I noticed when it came to, you know who I'm about to mention?
When a name check somebody.
When it came to Russell Wilson and Sierra, I love what I see is happening with Sierra's and Future's son and Russell's son. I mean, and I know all the drama. I'm not really going to address all of that because I don't care about that. But just the beauty that I see that Russell is pouring into that little boy, it's like you can't tell him that's not his. And that little boy is so
Somebody might wanna
blessed to
tell Future.
have two people two daddies who truly love him. I think we should embrace those type of relationships because relationships look all kinds of, it's a variety of ways that we look in our relationships. So we should embrace anything positive that people are going to bring to the table. The more the merrier. I wish somebody would have poured into my children like, hey, I want to help you raise them and take care of them and love on them and teach. Hey, the more the merrier because they did not come with a manual, so it's not easy. So I just don't get that divisive mentality that we have when it comes to being a community and raising families and even when it comes to what's going on in your own, just your nucleus household.
And how this relates to marriages, these are just another of a long list of things that you should be thinking about when you start even thinking about getting relationships that you think might lead to marriage.
What are some of the things that you feel like, as a young person, Nia, that people should think about before they even get married?
I think you should think about the fact that you are going to be sleeping with this person for a very long time.
What do you mean by sleeping? You mean by sleeping as in going to sleep, or
No,
sleeping
I
as in
mean
having sex?
sexual relations.
Okay, well, let's talk about it.
I get very mind boggled, and I know it's a personal choice, but I just get a little mind boggled with the people who are just like, I'm just gonna wait till marriage. Like, you gonna wait to find out that he's 3 inches and has no libido? Like,
All right.
I feel like there are certain things that could be, preventative to the whole cheating expedition that happens. Like, first off, make sure you are friends with this person. Like, because after a while, the sex is going to fade, and all you're going to have is conversation. And if you can't talk to them for more than an hour, like, y'all just going to be sitting there looking at each other. Like, you ever been in that moment where after you had sex with somebody, and now y'all looking at each other like, so what you about to do? Like, that's how it's going to be in your marriage.
It's usually you already showing them what you're going to do. You're getting up and walking out the door like, okay, that was all you was good for. I'm good. Talk to you
Right.
later.
Like, conversation is so important, and so many people forget about that. It's like, and values are very important as well. People get involved in relationships with people they don't know, talking about, oh, I'm gonna marry him, this, that, and the other. A year later, you find out he's a Republican and wants to raise your children a certain way, and just like get to know the person you're spending time with. Like,
Do you think things are important like politics, religion? What do you think about that? Do you think people can be married and have two different political affiliations and be really strongly invested in their affiliation?
I feel like that takes two very strong people who don't exist yet.
As well as religious?
Yeah, I personally couldn't do it just because, like, I know how strong my beliefs are, and it just would seem complicated to me to be with someone who doesn't at least lean in the same direction, Like, you don't have to be all the way there, but at least lean in that direction, you know? Be able to have a conversation with that person about your beliefs without attacking each other, without, you know, being defensive and all that stuff. Like, I think that's important. But for me, nah. Like, I'm not religious. So if you're religious, if you're trying to go to church and have my baby baptized and all that, I'm gonna look at you side-eyed, because that's just not what I do.
What do you think about as far as sex before marriage?
I'm all for it. Have as much sex as you can, get it out the way, you know.
What do you think about the people that say they're gonna wait?
I'd want to know your reasoning, if it makes sense, you know, that's all good. And I know people that say, well, it only needs to make sense to me. And, you know, technically that's kind of true. But, you know.
It is, but if you're basing the things that if it makes sense to you because it's based on fallacies, like,
Yeah.
nobody's going to want you if you're not like that, or it's going to somehow damage you if you don't wait. These are the kinds of fallacies that get people to thinking that they have to be a certain kind of person, or that society has an expectation. I heard you guys talking about, you know, we got any number of words, of derogatory words for women who have sex before marriage, and then any number of, I guess, congratulatory words for men who do. And
Right.
the entirety of that dynamic, again, just completely and totally messed up. But these are the kinds of things that when people are sitting there saying, well, yeah, I'm just making my decision, it is your decision, but do you realize how you've been conditioned to make the decisions that you're making? And that's the underlying thought process of thinking it through to the nth degree that we really got to have instilled. I mean, to me, if your kids go to school and they aren't teaching them critical thinking, then no amount of reading, writing, arithmetic gonna help them, because a lack of critical thinking skills is going to make the rest of that stuff null and void.
What do you think about the people who feel like they're going to abstain from having sex due to they want to be right with God?
And again,
What makes you think you're not going to be right with
that's
God?
absolutely fine, but even then you have to ask yourself, who told you what God's opinion was? Okay? Exactly. Whose opinion are you trusting? Because you're not trusting God's opinion. You're trusting somebody who told you God's opinion. So now you got to ask that person, did they have sex before marriage? Because again, ask yourself why you believe the things that you believe. I don't care what you believe. I just care that you care enough to know why you believe. Because if you want me to respect your beliefs, really, really respect you and your beliefs, you got to think it through. I'm not going to ever... You know, nobody ever has to do anything or be anything other than what they are. I don't believe in making nobody do nothing. But at the same time, you know, if you want my respect, if you want me to respect you as a person who is a critical thinker and who I think can advance whatever conversation we're having forward, then you got to show me you're a critical thinker. And saying that I'll just believe something because somebody told me, that's not exhibiting critical thinking to me. So, I mean, I get it. If that's how you choose to be, some people don't choose to think for themselves. Everybody doesn't have to do it. As a matter of fact, I don't think everybody can. I think there's a certain number of people out there who really aren't constituted to think for themselves. They need somebody to kind of give them guidance, and they're more comfortable with that.
You know that sounds like some pimp shit.
Spoiler, the people who are telling you to behave this way are hypocrites themselves.
You need somebody to think
I ain't
for
saying I want to do it. I'm just saying.
Kind of, sort of.
Everybody can't be a boss. You know, everybody can't be a boss. And I used to think that everybody could be a boss. And now I'm not sure if everybody can be a boss of their own life. Because some people out here just have not exhibited to me
now I know what you're saying.
What it seems to be the critical thinking skills to make that up.
There will be some leaders, there will be some followers. There has to be balance in this world. So I definitely agree with you on that. But how you so eloquently ran your pimp game there. I'm like, yeah, I see you, baby. I see you.
I ain't trying to be nobody else's daddy. Thank you very much.
I see you, baby. I see you.
Just barely figuring out how to be an uncle.
I know that's right.
So
I know that's right.
I'm done with daddy duty.
When I was reading statistics, though, they said the younger people are waiting longer to get married, and they're not getting married as much.
It don't
Well,
make sense.
we're kind of split in half right now, not gonna lie. It's like there's a 50% of them are, where's my man, or this gonna be me and somebody's son, or just like they want it so badly. It's sad. And then the other half is just like, niggas ain't shit. You can't trust these hoes. Da 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 da. And I'm just like, y'all all sound broken as fuck. You are broken.
And for this reason, I think it's incumbent upon, as we, society has gone through any number of changes, and we're talking now about society going through yet another change that is going to have enormous ripple effects in how we conduct ourselves. I mean, even something like World War I, when all the men went off to war and women had to go to work, that changed society significantly. What's about to happen is going to change society significantly, and the fact of longevity, the fact of different kind of economic systems, all this stuff is going to make some of the old ideas that we had about relationships, that we had about marriage, that we had about celibacy, that we have about promiscuity. All these kinds of things are thought processes, are ideologies that need to be revisited, and we definitely need to do our best to stamp them out as what we call societal norms, because I can't think of a single one that actually qualifies as something that we should literally pay attention to.
I agree. That's why I raised our children to question everything and everyone, and even me. Be a critical thinker. Nowadays, when you have the internet, you can look up and verify, research anything. So you can't just go on people's word and sit there and quote what other people are saying, and next thing you know, you got urban myths flying everywhere. So you definitely have to use your critical thinking skills.
True.
I definitely understand why kids aren't getting married as quickly nowadays.
If I had to suggest it, I would suggest to people that the institution of marriage is irreparably broken, and that since there is at least as many divorces as marriage, we should reconsider whether or not it's something we do at all. When the LGBT community was LGBT. Y'all gonna make me start saying alphabet people like Dave Chappelle and Flame. I like Flame Monroe because she gets.
I know Flame Monroe. Shout out to Flame Monroe.
Flame gave me permission to say alphabet people because I can't remember all them letters because I'm an old man. So
Just put it into a song. LGBTQAZ.
See, and that is why we had to get her professional help. My point being, even the conversation about that community getting the same marriage rights as us, I always thought that was the wrong conversation to be having. I thought they should be trying to tear down the institution of marriage completely instead of integrate into a burning house like we did in the 60s. But yet they were bound and determined to do it, so now they can do it, and in all honesty, it doesn't really fit with a community that had to. I heard a lot of people in that community say this. They had to have a counterculture mentality about their very way of living from early on. So they didn't develop the strong cultural resonance with the institution of marriage that we had. The institutions of celibacy and monogamy that the rest of society had to conform to.
I gotta test the waters before I get married. I'm sorry, sex is highly important to me, and I am not marrying anyone unless I know that I'm gonna be satisfied and bad.
Here.
I'm just, that's a deal breaker.
I mean, again, the idea of sex and sexuality is a conversation that I think should be completely and totally divorced from the concept of marriage. And here's why. Because one of the biggest things that causes problems in marriage is sex. It's either too much, one person wants more sex than the other person, or somebody's getting sex from somebody other than the person they're quote unquote supposed to be having sex with. All right, and I say quote unquote because
I creep.
Yeah,
Because-
just keep it on and down.
all of this is part, and again, the conversation about sex and sexual mores and things like that, it interacts and interlocks with this conversation about marriage because, again, a significant number of marriages fall apart because of infidelity or because of sexual issues in a marriage, and we have to ask ourselves, okay, A, should you have ever even been married if that's the situation, and B,
Those requirements.
are these requirements that were put on you, or that you allowed to be put on you, or that you put on yourself, or that you put on another person, are these actually how you choose to live your life? And C, even more importantly, who taught us all this shit?
And if
Really,
you
though.
do require to live your life that way, why are you putting it on someone else?
Exactly.
Why are you forcing somebody else to live their life like that? That's a very personal decision if you want to be monogamous or if you want to sleep with several people or whatever it may be. I think.
And it's not the kind of decisions you should have to make for your whole entire life at age 18. Again, you might
At
live to
any
be
age.
I always
I
ask
can't even
people
make
that
it at
though.
50. I can't make it at 50, so I'm dumbfounded when 18, 21-year-olds are talking about, oh yeah, I'm just going to be true to him and this going to be my boo thing forever, and they're making plans forever, and I'm like, wow, how do they do that? I don't know where I'm going to be in
Easy.
5 years or what I'm going to be doing in 10 years or if I'm still going to like vanilla or chocolate in 10 years. I don't know. I mean, how could you know that kind of information? I just believe in living in the moment. I enjoy every day, every moment that I'm with my partner is a good day. But I don't think about, oh, okay, how is this going to look in 10 years or 20 years? I don't care about all that kind of stuff. Because I think if I get too vested in that, then I'll be missing so many precious moments and lessons.
It's crazy because I'll ask people my age, the ones who believe in the whole sanctity for marriage thing, and I'm just like, how are you gonna even know what you like and what you want once you get to that situation? Like, you've never had any experiences, and then they're just like, oh yeah, that's for me and my significant other to figure out together. We'll discover each other. And I'm like, well, what if you discover you don't like him? Like,
What if you discover you're into somebody who's not into discovery? Because in point of fact, there's a lot of that out there.
Yeah.
So I mean, the problem with it is you locked yourself in. If you went into the situation saying, hey, we're going to get to know each other. If it works out, cool. If it doesn't, that's cool too.
right. Like, be
Then
okay to leave
It would
them
not be a
alone.
problem. Hey, we're learning each other. And guess what? We're learning we don't need to be there. And that's okay.
And
Sometimes-
I'm learning myself.
Yeah. I'm learning that, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And I can't learn what I don't like about you until I've been around you enough to actually find it out. So when I find it out, it shouldn't be, we shouldn't have set ourselves up for the nuclear option to be the only option when you get to those situations. I mean, you really have to expect that even though it's 7+ billion people in the world, you really aren't going to be compatible with but so many of them.
I know that's
And
right.
that's a very,
I know that's
very, very
right.
small number that you're really going to find a true compatibility where you actually don't mind being around this person for the kinds of significant periods of time that marriage involves. Because, shacking up is one thing. But, and to me, it's kind of, I remember we had the concept of common law marriage, which is kind of disappearing from the public discourse, when in actuality, it was probably as good or better an arrangement than anything else out there. Because it just said, hey, we're going to be together, and as long as we're together, we're going to act like we're married. And when we ain't together no more, we're not going to act like that no more.
See, the problem is when the courts step in, though.
Well,
That's the
Lord.
problem I have, because the courts stepped into
Damn
common law.
government.
Yeah. And whereas then people literally can get money from being commonly law married to someone.
Well, I mean, the idea was that if you're going to be together, we need to have some set of rules to make sure that, because property, when you're growing stuff together, there needs to be some kind. Just like if you were getting into a corporation. When people join corporations, one of the clauses that has to be in a good corporate bylaws is how you dissolve the damn thing.
Right.
Okay? this is what happens when we get to the end, or if we get to the end. We don't necessarily know when we start a corporation. We don't know whether or not it's going to last forever, 100, 200 years, or whether or not it may be over and done within 10.
That's why I'm down for prenups.
So we factor that in, and we say, hey, this is what's going to happen if we get to the end of this journey. Here's how we're going to divide up whatever we got at that point in time. Everybody's going to be happy. There's no confusion. There's no problem. That's what common law marriage actually was. It was just a set of rules to make it easy for people who decided to cohabitate to get in and get out without too much stress and strain. Now, they dissolved that, and who wins? The divorce lawyers. Because divorce is one of the most expensive things you can get from a lawyer. It takes for damn ever, and they charge out the booty. So
I truly believe in prenups. So I don't care what the situation is, how long the person been married. I feel like, hey, let's sign these papers while we still like each other.
Right.
Because when it comes to the point where we get a divorce, we may or may not still like each other. And it's hard to sign and be on the same page when it comes to prenups when we are at war.
And here's the crazy thing about this. For most people, if you ask them to sign a prenup, they're going to say exactly the same thing. At this point in time, we put all our stuff together, and we 50-50. And when we break up, let's break up 50-50 and keep it going. Because when you love each other in the beginning, 50-50 is what your expectation is, right? Mm-hmm. So most people would be. So here's the thing. We don't really need a whole bunch of prenups. We just need one simple situation. Guess what? Y'all 50-50. When you break up, you get your 50, he get his 50, and y'all going about y'all damn business. That's the end of the discussion. It should be that simple. The only reason it's not that simple is because we throw in issues like children and child support and all kinds of other craziness, or we start to want to assign blame. We want to say, oh, well, you committed infidelity, so you should pay for that.
That's why I want it signed up front. That's why I need my paper signed up front, because I don't have time for all that.
Again, we just need a system of government and understanding that does not even allow for that to be brought into a court of law, because
now,
it never should have been.
I agree with you on that. I think the government has gone way too far with allowing profit motivation amongst our personal lives.
To drive how we litigate with each other.
Yeah, exactly. I have a problem with that.
I'm mad at you because you did something I think you shouldn't have done. And me using my penis any way I want to is something I should do. Exactly. And no, it's nobody else's business but mine.
Exactly.
You might not like it, but you don't get to be punitive against me because of it. All right? Cutting it off should not be an option. silly women. That's not how this works. Okay? Again, we're talking about a difference between, there's a difference between trust, there's a difference between making promises and keeping them. All that stuff, if you make a promise, you need to keep it. But if you're asking people to make promises, you need to know why you asked them to make them. Don't ask people to make promises that you don't even know why you asked them to make them.
That's not even reasonable.
It's not reasonable. That you might not even want to keep your damn self if you really thought about it. So
I know. Don't ask me to make promises on my body. It's my body. Yeah. I'm like, don't ask me to be faithful. Don't ask me to do that. I mean, that's things that I'll decide, and that's things that has to be earned.
Preach.
So listen. I don't know if y'all gonna get married or not, and I really don't care. But what I do know is that you need to question everything, and you need to make sure that when you do whatever you do, you're doing it for reasons that make sense to everybody involved, and everybody is eyes wide open when it goes in. As long as if that's the case, you would probably end up okay.
I know. Mm-hmm. Talk about it. Talk about religion. Talk about politics. Talk about how you're going to raise your children. Talk about drugs, talk about the environment, talk about things that matter to you in this world, and make sure that your values align before you partner with anyone.
Talk about whether or not you want to be rich, because if you want to be rich and she don't, you're going to always be pissed off that she ain't driving as hard as you are, and she going to always be pissed off that you seem to want more than y'all got.
That's right.
It's never going to work out.
That's right. I had to have somebody to match my hustle, because I know my hustle's strong.
And for the love of Saint Joseph and Mary, stop trying to get married so they can make you happy. Nobody can make you happy but you. If you go in there expecting them to make you happy and they don't, guess what's gonna happen? You're going to pay a lot for divorce. So just understand you were supposed to come together with your own happiness and build something together. That is the point of marriage. Anything else, you're playing yourself, pimp. You're playing yourself.
And on that note,
Peace.
We out here.
Enjoyed the show? Give it a like, follow, subscribe, and add it to your playlist. And make sure you head on over to our YouTube channel at Just Utter Chaos to check out the videos and live streams. Also, if you want exclusive info that we only share with our subscribers, head over to justutterchaos.com and sign up for our newsletter. It's free. Let us know what you think about today's show in the comments.